Welcome to my channel Alien Signal. The first time they saw her, she was walking. No armor, no escort, no visible weapons, and every predator in the system stopped hunting. The planet Kepri 9 had a reputation that stretched across 12 star systems. It was not rich in resources, nor strategically valuable. It had no thriving trade routes or ancient relics worth plundering. What it had was life. Violent, relentless, apex life. The forests of Kepri 9 were thick with organisms that evolved under constant competition. Every creature hunted or was hunted. The skies belonged to razor-winged flyers that could shred metal. The ground teemed with scaled horrors that hunted in packs. Even the plant life was aggressive. Vines that constricted, spores that paralyzed. No civilization had ever settled there permanently. Until humans. The settlement was small at first. A research outpost. Then a colony. Then something more stubborn. Humanity didn't conquer Kepri -9. It endured it. They built with reinforced composites, learned migration patterns, and adapted faster than expected. They studied predators, cataloged them, survived them. It was dangerous, but manageable. At least, that's what the Galactic Coalition thought. Until the predators began to change. Reports came in from drones first. Entire regions of the forest had gone silent. Apex predators, creatures that once dominated their territory, were retreating. Packs dissolved. Hunting grounds were abandoned. At first, it was assumed to be an ecological imbalance. Then the drones started recording something else. A single human. She appeared in footage again and again. Walking. Always walking. No environmental suit beyond basic protection. No weapon signatures. No drones. No visible communication device. Yet wherever she went, predators fled. Even the largest ones. Especially the largest ones. The coalition sent observers. Among them was Tarek-9, a Exilari biologist whose species had evolved as ambush predators. He understood fear. He understood dominance hierarchies. He understood what it meant for a creature to recognize something stronger. But what he saw made no sense. He watched through the remote feed as a Keprian Titan, a creature over 15 meters long, armored in layered chitin, capable of crushing transport vehicles, lifted its massive head. It scented the air, and then it ran. Not a tactical retreat, not a cautious withdrawal. It fled. Tarek replayed the footage multiple times. Impossible, he muttered, his mandibles clicking softly. Humans are not apex predators here, one of his assistants said. They rely on tools, coordination. This one does not, Tarek interrupted. On screen, the human continued walking. Unhurried, unconcerned. Her name, they eventually learned, was Mara Vance. Formerly, the human colony records listed her as deceased. The story began months earlier. Before the silence. Before the predators fled. Before Mara Vance started walking. Mara had been part of a survey team. 6 humans, 1 transport vehicle, standard equipment. Their mission was routine. Map a newly discovered region of dense forest, analyze biodiversity, and return. They never came back. At least, not all of them. The distress signal was brief. Static. Screams. Then silence. Rescue teams were deployed immediately, but Kepri 9 did not give up its secrets easily. By the time they reached the last known coordinates, the forest had already reclaimed the area. No bodies were found, only fragments. A torn sleeve, a cracked helmet, blood on leaves that had already begun to digest it. And tracks. Many tracks. The official report declared the team lost to predation. Case closed. Except it wasn't. Because 3 days later, Mara Vance walked out of the forest. She arrived at the colony gates alone. Unarmed. Covered in dirt, dried blood, and something else no one could identify. The guards almost didn't recognize her. Not because of injuries, though she had those, but because of her eyes. They weren't empty, they weren't broken, they were focused, sharp in a way that made people uncomfortable. Medical scans showed extensive trauma, fractures, internal injuries, signs of infection, but she was alive, and healing, faster than expected. "Tell us what happened," the colony director said gently. Mara sat in the infirmary, staring past him. "They tested me," she said. "Who did?" She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she asked, "How long was I gone?" 3 days. She shook her head slightly. "No," she whispered. "Longer." Her account was fragmented, confusing, disturbing. They had been ambushed, not by one species, by many. Predators that didn't normally cooperate had attacked together. Coordinated, intelligent. The team was overwhelmed within minutes. Mara ran, not out of cowardice, but because someone had to survive. "I thought I could lose them," she said. "But they weren't hunting like animals." "What do you mean?" "They were hurting me." She described being driven deeper into the forest, forced into narrower terrain, into darker regions where the canopy blocked out almost all light, where the sounds changed, where the predators weren't just hunting. They were watching. "They didn't kill me," she said. "They could have, many times." "Then why didn't they?" Mara looked at him then. And for a moment, something in her expression made him wish she hadn't. They were learning. What happened next was harder to believe, harder to process. But the evidence, the footage, the changes in the ecosystem, made it impossible to dismiss. "They tested everything," Mara continued. "Fear, pain, endurance." She described being hunted in cycles, given time to rest, then hunted again. Each time, the predators changed tactics, adapted, improved. "They weren't just predators," she said. "They were evaluating. For what? For something better." At some point, something changed. Mara couldn't pinpoint when, only that it happened after she stopped running. "I realized I couldn't win," she said. "Not by fighting, not by hiding." "So what did you do?" "I stayed." She described standing her ground. Not attacking, not fleeing, just existing, watching them as they watched her. "They circled me," she said. "Dozens of them, different species. Why didn't they attack?" "They did, but each attack was different. Measured, controlled, like a test." "I started to understand them," she said slowly. "Not their thoughts, but their patterns." She learned when they would strike, how they moved, what triggered them, what didn't. And then, the director asked. Mara's voice dropped to a whisper. "They started to understand me." Something passed between them. Not language, not instinct. Something else. Recognition. "They stopped seeing me as prey," she said. "Or as a threat." "What, then?" She hesitated. "Something outside the rules." When she finally walked out of the forest, she wasn't escaping. She was leaving. After that, things changed. At first, it was subtle. Predators avoided the colony perimeter more than usual. Hunting patterns shifted. Then came the silence. Entire regions emptied. Creatures that once fought for territory abandoned it entirely. All in response to one thing. Mara Vance walking through their domain. She didn't speak much after her return. Didn't explain further. Didn't answer most questions. She simply walked. And wherever she went, the ecosystem bent around her. The coalition demanded answers, explanations, containment. "This human represents an unknown variable," one official stated. "Potentially dangerous." "Dangerous," another scoffed. "She isn't harming anything that we know of." "Look at the data," Tarek 9 interjected. "Predators are retreating. Entire ecological zones are stabilizing. Violence is decreasing, or being suppressed," the official countered. By something we don't understand. A decision was made. They would observe her directly. Tarek volunteered. He landed on HFY 9 with a small team. Equipped, armed, prepared. Everything Mara was not. They found her at the edge of a forest clearing. Standing still, watching something. Tarek approached cautiously. Human Mara Vance, he called out. She didn't turn. You should not be here, she said calmly. I am here to understand. She nodded slightly. They tried that already. Who? She finally looked at him. The ones who live here. A low rumble echoed through the forest. Tarek stiffened. His team raised their weapons. From the shadows, shapes emerged. Large, silent, watching, predators. Many of them. Tarek felt it immediately. That instinct. That ancient, genetic warning. He was not the apex here. Not even close. Do not engage, Mara said softly. They will attack, one of his team whispered. No, she replied. They won't. The predators stepped closer. Not aggressive, not passive, curious. They know you, Tarek said. They know what I am, Mara corrected. What are you? She didn't answer directly. Instead, she stepped forward. Into their space. The largest predator, a massive, scaled beast, lowered its head. Not in submission, not in fear, in acknowledgement. Tarek's breath caught. This is impossible. They tested me, Mara said quietly. They pushed me to the edge of what I am. And, I didn't break. She looked at the creatures around her. They recognize that. Recognize what? Tarek pressed. Mara met his gaze. That I am something they cannot define. Silence settled over the clearing. Heavy, unshakable. No weapons, Tarek said slowly. No armor. No need, Mara replied. Then what protects you? She glanced back at the forest. At the countless eyes watching from the shadows. Understanding, she said. Tarek looked again at the predators. At the way they held back. At the space they gave her. At the unspoken boundary they would not cross. And he realized something. They weren't afraid of her. Not exactly. They respected her. Not as prey. Not as predator. As something else entirely. Something that had faced them at their worst. And endured. Mara turned away. Resuming her walk. The predators parted. Effortlessly. Instinctively. No weapons. No warning. Yet every predator knew who she was. And none of them would ever challenge her again. Because on a world where only the strongest survived. She had proven something far more terrifying. She didn't need to win. She only needed to endure. And that, they understood better than anything. On HFY 9, that made her untouchable. And across the stars, it made humanity something new. Not the strongest, not the fastest, not the most dangerous, but the species that could walk into the jaws of death. And walk back out, unbroken, and forever changed. Thank you for listening. Subscribe for more cinematic science fiction stories.